I kind of turned up at Emma's family house at like 4:30 in the morning, and I was in big trouble. You know, I was off my head.
Of course.
And I woke up the next morning, and she kind of came in and told me that I'd missed Isabel crawling for the first time. She just said, enough of this. I've had enough of this. And so I stormed out the house in like anger and went down the road, and it suddenly dawned on me I was going to be a terrible father. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. My name's Matt Willis. I'm a musician, father, husband. I have ADHD. This is MTV Faces. Yeah, it's lovely to feel that time, mate. It is nice. Monet?
I don't know.
That's right.
I want to begin by saying congratulations, because you survived pop.
I survived pop.
You survived pop.
Surviving.
No,
yeah,
but I think
yeah.
like survived in the sense of that initial wave, which
Yeah.
of course led to a hiatus of some kind.
Yeah, yeah.
I've seen numerous examples of that hiatus not necessarily ending in the way it's gone for you.
Well, it wasn't really a hiatus, if I'm honest. Like it was just a clear end.
Bang.
You know, I was 21 and Charlie left the
That's what I
band.
mean, man. 21 is so young.
Yeah, man.
This is what I mean when I say
Yeah,
congratulations for yourself, because it's like, what?
I know, it's crazy, right? Like I forget that I was 21 because I meet people now who are 21. I was like, wow, I'd kind of done busted by that point. You know, that first kind of round, which was so intense. And then you're kind of like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. But then now we've been back longer than we were around the first time, which is crazy.
Yeah. It's wicked to see, I guess, like I say, another phase, a new phase.
Yeah.
Matured, balanced adults just enjoying themselves, enjoying performance.
Yeah. It's funny because like everything outside of the band, I kind of feel like a different person.
Right.
And then I get together with those guys and we're the same three idiots we were when we were 16. Do you know what I mean?
Nice.
And that's really fun.
Nice.
You know, because we're allowed to be, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But we're adults and we have lives and we kind of talk about stuff that we never used to talk about.
Right.
When we started, we kind of had this idea of what we were going to be. You know, we thought we were going to be the British Blink-182 and kind of do that kind of thing. And then we're suddenly on tour, on the Smash Hits tour. And I remember vividly walking out of my dressing room and seeing Atomic Kitten in the hallway and thinking, wow, they're famous. They're the girls on TV. You know, and we were kind of transported into that kind of massive pop world, which was strange, you know, but I still loved it. You know, I loved every
Can you remember
second of
it?
Bits of it. Yeah, yeah.
That's why I begin with that question,
Yeah.
because obviously I want to talk about ADHD and everything that comes with that. But that parallel for me, seeing that in your career, I can remember when you first came around. I remember actually there being like a handful of super fans in one of my classes at school.
Yeah, yeah.
And now then going through a similar experience, Rizzle Kicks popped off when I was 19. So actually I was a little bit older than you, which is wild.
Oh no, that's when we popped off.
Oh, is it 19?
I was 19.
Okay,
when
19,
we signed a deal when I was 18.
Yeah,
we
same.
released when we were 19. Yeah.
Right. So both signed a deal at the same time. Both got thrust into an industry we didn't necessarily understand.
Yeah.
I also felt my self-determination had kind of gone beyond me once we were in public consciousness.
Yeah, yeah.
People were defining me, and that was a bizarre experience. And then, you know, for me personally, and I'd love to hear how it felt manifested for you. I know you've done a documentary specifically about your addiction, but you know, the pressure is fucking intense for a young person to be thrown into that environment with all the conditioning that we've had. How are we dealing with the grief of, let's say, even losing our anonymity, the pressure that comes with having to constantly perform? For me, I too found myself in bouts of addiction and self-destructive behaviors. And I also had no idea that back then, neurodiversity, I'd never heard of that as a term. I knew I was different. I felt different to other people, but you know? Yeah. So like, that's why I bring up immediately bring up that first, what I believe to be a survival of pop, is because all of those factors have played into both of our stories. Yeah. And it's interesting how it kind of manifested in similar ways.
Yeah, massively. I was thinking back to it quite recently, and like I'm working with a new therapist at the moment, which has been amazing.
Right.
We're kind of looking at certain aspects of time and things. And I suddenly thought about something which I'd never thought about before, because suddenly my life, it kind of sounds like, oh, poor pop star, you know, but my life became very unrelatable to anybody that was part of me. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't really relate to my friends or my family, but I didn't really have any of these people in this new world that I was in.
So you had that you had that same circle for that whole time. Did you keep the circle small?
Yeah, like
all kicking off.
Yeah, but then you're transporting into a different world.
Yeah.
And you kind of lose what I personally lost touch with, that home world, those mates that I grew up with, those kind of things. And I kind of was suddenly surviving in this whole new world of adults. You know, I still felt like a kid, which I was, you know, but like, and trying to be a grown up, you know, so I didn't know how to do anything, you know, and it was, yes, it's a really weird kind of like growing up experience in a way. And it's a really strange and not great place to grow up.
Yeah. You know? What, in the public eye?
Yeah. In the public eye and music industry, it's a very strange place to kind of survive.
I was told early on that one of the first things not to do was complain about fame. In spite of feeling some level of assault on my maybe that's spiritual being. I don't know. Because we live in a very materialistic world, and for a lot of people, and it's true because the world is tough. You know, the perks that come with it, the material perks, being alleviated of financial stress. I mean, for my whole teens and childhood, me and my mum didn't have much. You know, those moments, a lot of people, they can see that, get clothes, get this, get that.
Yeah, exactly. That's everything to an outside.
Right.
And that's also
everything. The emotional
that was
world,
everything to what I thought what I wanted.
I
was like, great. Like, I don't have to worry about paying.
Yeah, I'll be fine.
You know, I'm going to be good.
I'll be fine.
Everything's going to be great.
But then the emotional world, zero care. About what you're wearing. It's like, I'm not bothered about what you're wearing, actually. I think
exactly.
You still feel pretty abandoned by like a mate of yours when you were 7.
Exactly. Let's get to that.
So I don't know whether to start with the addiction or ADHD, I guess.
Wherever you want, let's go.
Well,
I mean, I think they feed both into each other.
I know, linearly, it would make sense for me to go into the addiction, because I am interested to see, was it really the pressure of fame that almost pushed you into that impulsivity? Was that a coping mechanism, or was that something that was existing within you from before and it just
that was something which has been with me since as long as I can remember. I remember being 7 years old and like I had like, everyone thought I had really bad asthma. I'd have to go to the hospital all the time to like check my asthma and stuff, and I was under my covers and I was just taking as many hits of my Ventolin inhaler as I could,
just smashing it.
Because it would make my head go like what poppers was, you know, like that kind of feeling of kind of like, and it wasn't nice. It wasn't like a good high, but it just changed the way I felt, you know, and I loved it, you know, and I'd go through asthma inhalers weekly, you know, but I was just like, when we were kind of young, kind of smoking weed and kind of drinking and stuff, I was always the one who was kind of
going that extra mile, you know,
destructive, just wanting to kind of change the way I felt.
So ultimately what happened was you then had time and money.
Then those are the in your late teens.
Exactly. It's lethal, isn't it?
Then I had time, money, and a bit of stress. You know, and like perfect,
chef's
fantastic. Exactly. That's the perfect environment for an addict. You know.
Wow.
And it was and then things just escalated when the band ended when I was 21. Suddenly, I didn't have that reason to go to work and that reason to get up. So I just drank and did drugs.
How long did that last for?
I mean, I think I stopped drinking at 26, so like 5 years of kind of solid kind of alcoholism and drug taking.
Did you have a moment?
Yeah, I'd come out of rehab and I got married and I'd had my kid, my first child, Isabel, and I had been sober for about a month, 6 weeks or something. I was just trying really hard, like just white knuckling it, trying to kind of stay clean. And she was about 7-8 months old or something. And I got a part in a TV show. And so I was going to go and act in this TV show. Had one day on set. So and I went and I did that thing, and I was going to go and meet my wife at her birthday party afterwards. I had a small gathering for her birthday in Birmingham. So I was going to go and meet Emma and my daughter and her family in Birmingham after the shoot. I was finishing about 7. My train was booked. I was backstage and I didn't realise it was the last day on set. So everyone's last day. So it was a wrap. So and then I was in the green room because they might have had to call me back for like something else towards the end. They're like, we might need to call you back for another shot, so can you hang around? I was like, great. And then the shoot was ending and they had like a tray of champagne and they just were bringing it round because everyone was going to celebrate, say cheers or whatever. So I just went boom, and then I was off to the races, and I kind of missed my train, missed everything, just ended up in a pub and then a car with strangers till God knows what time. And then I kind of turned up at Emma's family house at like 4:30 in the morning, and I was in big trouble. You know, I was off my head. You know, I was taking every drug I could find. And I'd been clean for a while, so it was kind of a bit of a shock, you know, but I think Emma knew what was going on, why my phone was off, you know, everything. And then she didn't shout. I just went to bed and kind of like, and I woke up the next morning and she kind of came in and told me that I'd missed Isabel crawling for the first time. She just said, enough of this. I've had enough of this. And I knew she meant it. She said that before, and I'd said, like, I promise you I'll get clean. I'd always meant it in the moment, but knew I wasn't gonna really, you know, like I never really had that. I thought I'll just stay clean for a bit and then everyone will get off my back and I can use again. And so I stormed out the house in like anger and just being a dick. I went down the road and it suddenly dawned on me I was gonna be a terrible father. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. All I ever wanted to do was be a dad, you know, and all I ever wanted to do was be a good dad, you know. No one wants to be a shit dad. And I knew I was gonna repeat that cycle of shit, you know. And they found me, they went out searching for me, and they found me and they hugged me, and I told them, you know, I said I was sorry and I meant it. I said I'm gonna do everything I can, you know, and I did. I did everything I was told. I listened to everything I was told previously, went back and did all the work I needed to do and kind of like to stay clean and sober, and that was the last drink I had, which was 13 years ago. So, yeah, but since then I've found other things to be a problem.
Yeah,
you know, and I've fallen into like little, cocaine's not a problem. Alcohol was my downfall, but that was the last time was 6 years ago, and I've been clean and sober since then, and I make it a daily non-negotiable.
Firstly, what a moment to share. Like that is wanting to break a generational cycle. I couldn't think of anything more important in terms of growth and maturity. Like we've you know, generational shifts are happening, but it's tough. And that's been a big motivator for me too, wanting to straighten myself out and want to feel love, allow people to love me, which was like a big thing.
That's huge, dude, isn't it?
Huge. Yeah. For me, one of my click moments with my sobriety, so I'm actually 6 years sober too, but I kicked the drink and the drugs at the same time. Yeah. For me, it was like, my issue was because the uppers were essentially acting as some form of medication. And I'd get this feedback a lot. Whenever I went further than drinking, I went, like zoned in. Boom. And I used to love it because like I said, I was escaping this conference in my mind.
Well, look at all the ADHD drugs, right?
They're all amphetamines.
They're all amphetamines.
I know.
And that's so funny because I've thought about that a lot, because I liked certain other drugs, you know, I played around with everything, but the ones I really gravitated towards were uppers, you know, because they silenced that constant noise, you know, and it allowed me to kind of have a bit of peace, even though that piece was just more. Well, but
this
at least
is the thing
was quieter.
Is I would then do it at home. Yeah. Incredibly productive. Yeah. Very functional. I'd show people, hey, look, I wrote a script.
Yeah.
Look at this script I wrote. Yeah. But then, what actually ended up happening was I'd already been diagnosed with ADHD when I was 15. Wow. Ignored it. Yeah. Wasn't bothered. Yeah. And then was re-diagnosed for a TV show. I was doing like a TV show that required a psych evaluation. Right. And the guy was like, yeah, you got ADHD, and put me on this medication. And that medication basically took me away from doing drugs for the first part. I'd been sober a couple of times and relapsed. I never went into recovery for various reasons. And I found that so interesting that essentially my nihilistic, is that a word? Nihilistic?
Sounds good to me.
My destructive behavior and my kind of annihilation-based mentality. But they were crossing paths with this ADHD, with this neurodiversity. The medication, you know, it is still methamphetamine, but they would argue it's been created in a way which will sidestep the moorishness, sidestep the expenses, sidestep, you know, those kind of things. And I did find initially that it helped me balance myself out. I didn't necessarily require the up of, you know. Has the ADHD diagnosis helped you reflect on your problems of addiction?
Yeah, it really has. You know, I've looked into this quite a lot, you know, because I feel like a lot of people that I meet within the recovery space,
Yeah.
you know, have a very similar story to me. And there's a lot of ADHD around, I think, you know, in those kind of environments. You know, not everyone, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
You know, I think lots of things play into addiction. If there was a one thing, then we could solve it.
Yeah.
You know, but I think it's a multifaceted problem. But I do think that for me, that feeling of self-hatred, that feeling of inner turmoil was rooted from being very young and being told I was bad. I was a bad kid. I was badly behaved. I was this. You know, I was super hyperactive as a kid. I don't have that part of it anymore. But I was really in trouble all the time. Like no one can understand me. I was just a naughty kid. Like I feel like if you get told that over and over again, you kind of like that is part of you. And that kind of inner self-hatred was a big part of my using. And I feel like that was pretty much just ADHD playing out, you know, undiagnosed ADHD just running riot in my life. Maybe if I'd been told that, then maybe I wouldn't have ended up in so much, you know, calamity. Who knows? I still think that I would have been an addict, whether I, you know, whichever way I look at it. But I do think that a lot of it was just these feelings of being less than, which I think is, you know, was wrong in my eyes, the way I saw myself, you know, but I had no other way of explaining it, you know.
So real. And listen, I mean, look, I was given a diagnosis at 15 and I still fell into addictive behavior. So there's really no way of knowing how it will play out.
Yeah.